All right, everyone, we are live. How's it going? I hope everyone is excited for this Ultra Megatonic matchup, round 3 of Lccc, and I'm joined here by my co-host, the Forbidden Mountain Dan. What's going on?
I am excited for today's matchup. Should be a good one. I watched Theo last round, and it was a spectacle. So I'm very, very excited to see this one live.
I'm super excited for this, and one of the reason is both of these players are winners of their own DLC, Bochum and Birmingham. I was there when Federico won it as well, so it's really awesome to see these two clash against each other, and we're not gonna make you wait anymore, so let's go ahead and introduce the players for tonight. We're gonna start with Federico.
Love it. Very excited. He's a great player, right?
Ultra Megatonic player. So we got Federico Mecozzi, and he is a winner of DLC Birmingham, like what I just mentioned, and also top 16 DLC Bochum. Has been playing blue-red for a while now. That's what he used during Birmingham, and he's still playing blue-red right now. Ruby Sapphire has been dominant for a while, and it's no different in set 7. Of course, it is joined by another deck that is going to be used by his opponent tonight. But first, let's focus on Federico's deck. What do you think about this deck, Dan?
Federico's deck is very great. It's been very successful to this point. Obviously, Ruby Sapphire, is one of the more dominant decks in the game. It had a great weekend last weekend down in 300 plus player tournament in Georgia. So it's not shocking to me that see this kind of be very successful for him so far. He is leaning more towards Sharks. A lot of the last have kind of drop down a little bit on Maui Sharks, but he's like, hey, 4 of these are awesome, and we're gonna live the dream with 4 Sharks and 3 Tamatoas. It's very, very powerful things going on.
Yeah, this deck to me feels like the traditional Ruby Sapphire with a splash of DKP style. So, like what you said, the Sharks are still there, but he also added a couple of McDuck Manors. He doesn't want to fall behind in that game of Monopoly against these other decks. We see set 7 as well in this deck with Tamatoa. How can you not run Tamatoa? It's just guaranteed value, and followed by Sapphire Coil. What's interesting to me on this deck is the 1B prep, and for me, I find that scary, but I trust these players, and it's probably the right call. They've tested these decks before. What do you think about that 1B prep?
I'm honestly team no B prep. I think that I think that this deck, if you want to just commit to 8 Sisus and some number of Medusas, you will pretty much have all the answers that you need already. But I do understand and respect that, hey, every once in a while, it's a get out of jail free card. Since you're referencing Monopoly here, we may as well just double down on that. I think that this deck, it feels more like a safety net more than anything. But what is really interesting about here is that not only do we have the Sharks and the McDuck Manors and the Tamatoas, he's double downing a little bit, and we have the Vitalis Spears and even the Greatstone Dragon along with the Coils and Popsicles. So most of these decks we've seen, from that we're playing the more McDuck Manor style, we're only really playing Popsicles. But this is like the full-fledged, hey, nope, I'm playing Sisus, I'm playing Tamatoas, I'm playing Maui Sharks. We're doing it all. We have 3 Pirate's Life in here also. How do you feel about that card going on right now?
I like Pirate's Life. I personally like it, especially if you're gonna run Maui. It's just very cash money in my opinion. It for me, it's almost like your B prep when racing. It's like, okay, I thought I could race, but things are going bad because you actually had the answer to everything that I'm trying to do. But hey, here's Pirate's Life, here's +2 to me, here's -2 to you, and now all of a sudden I'm ahead. And let's go ahead and see what he's gonna battle against with this deck. Let's have you introduce Theotime real quick.
Yeah, Theotime, phenomenal player, winner of DLC Bochum, and he's a red-purple fan for all of our Ruby Amethyst enjoyers out there. But in all honesty, I learned a lesson last round. I was able to sit and watch his match against Mo, and I thought he played that match so perfectly, and it really did display like how much effort he puts into this game, because he made decisions that I do not think the average player would have made in that match. Level of Disney Lorcana going on in this LCCC.
You kind of cut off there when you talk about you saw him last game and what he did. Can you repeat that really quick if that's
Yeah,
okay?
no problem. So in his last round against Mo, I felt that he played that matchup so very perfect, and he made decisions that the average player simply does not make. And it's really just that wonderful part of this LCC is getting these players on display and being able to watch them kind of navigate through these different matchups. And I just think that Theo played so remarkable that it's really I'm very excited to sit and watch another one of his games.
Yeah, I'm super excited too. Let's go ahead and check out his deck. He's playing a blue steel over here, sapphire steel, and one of the things that stand out to me right away is the addition of Last Cannon. I love this card in this deck. I have a friend here in Scotland that made it multiple times on day twos, and he talked to me about this card, and I'm like, I feel like this card is being slept on. And one of the reasons why is just it's just so much reach. I mean, it's an additional one cost item for you to target with Bell. But it does so much. It helps you take out the manners. It helps you take out big characters in general. It helps you take out that Flaversham with your Bell when Flaversham decides to exert. What do you think about this deck, Dan?
I think it's great. I also think that because of the way Federico built his deck, it's definitely the last cannons will come up pretty big, and they will certainly make a difference. I also love, we've seen a lot of debate over the 2-cost character slot.
Yeah.
And we've seen Oswald's. We've now this past weekend, anyone that's been watching World Class Cards event, we saw Chicho win the event yesterday. But
yeah.
Theo here really enjoys Mr. Smee, and I think that in this matchup particularly, Mr. Smee is very well positioned. It just adds a nice little 2-lore threat to the game that's going to help you kind of close out the game later with other things. Last Cannon, like you just said, it's like one of those choices. We've seen it come up here and there. This is a full commitment, and we have 3 Last Cannons in this list. So like that is a full commitment to this card. Is just going to help me answer problematic things. It's definitely huge in this particular matchup because Sapphire Steel's biggest issue is they don't have a very strong answer to a Hiram. And don't get me wrong, it's not helpful that the Hiram had already most likely drawn 4 cards when the last cannon helps, but at least it gives us a clean answer. It gives us something.
Yeah. Nothing more painful to watch when you see a Sapphire Steel player that has to Zeus an unexerted Hiram and then Strength of the Raging Fire on top of it. It's just painful. Like you have to spend 2 resources in order to take that out. And especially in a Ruby Sapphire matchup, you want those. And then along came Zeus for those Tamatoas, for the Sharks. There's so much use for, and then along came Zeus, and you most likely don't want to use that on a very annoying card that keeps drawing for your opponent.
Yeah, you want to get the most 1-for-1s that you can possibly get. So having the 4 Zeus here against the 4 Sharks and the 3 Tamatoas is huge. So we can't, like you said, you cannot go, oh, I'm going to sing Zeus and something else. You just fall way too far behind, way too quickly. The Ruby Sapphire threats will just come out and be too much for you. So last cannon, I do think you're like, all right, you're going to draw your 4 cards, but I'm going to answer it after that. Thankfully.
Yeah. Do you prefer? This would be the spicy question here because there's 2 debates on which one is the better 1-cost item. We both know that 40 Spear and Popsicle is amazing, but it's Arendelle or Shield of Arendelle versus Last Cannon. Which one do you prefer better?
I think it's just a metagame question, right? Going into this round, I'm sure Theo probably weighed the odds of saying, hey, like, am I going to be likely into a Ruby Sapphire? How am I going to be likely into a Steel matchup? I think Arendelle, if you're in a Steel metagame, is better. And I think that Last Cannon in a Ruby Sapphire metagame is better. So I think that's kind of my answer. It just really, it's what's the flavor of the week and how are we prepared for it?
Yeah. Or you can do me. I always make a confusing deck where I have one of Last Cannon and then two Arendelles, or two Last Cannons and one Arendelle.
Sure. I mean, we draw enough cards to be a toolbox, so it's fine.
That's very true. I do agree with that. We're just waiting right now for their matchup. They're currently setting it up, and we should be hopping in soon.
Just letting you guys know, casters, that we might have an issue with Pixelborn connecting with Fed. So we might be playing through Discord.
Okay.
So we're going to do a little setup in here to just bear with us, or you guys can go ahead and mute us. But we're doing some setup in here.
All right. Just ping us on the table. And I'm gonna mute you guys for now, so we can keep just entertaining the crowd and talking about these stuff.
Thank you.
All right.
Sorry, guys.
All good.
No, you're good.
Problem.
Go ahead and share your screen to Discord.
Yeah.
And then same with Theo.
All right, I have muted.
All right.
Everyone might need to mute us though while they're working.
Yeah, they probably have to mute us. I have muted them already as well. Yeah, I'm excited to this. While we're doing this, we can go ahead and go back to our Ruby Sapphire deck and check out what's going on a little bit more there in order to understand this matchup a bit more for the audience in general. Who do you think is in favor in general when you see a Ruby Sapphire and Ruby's or not Ruby Steel, Sapphire Steel matchup?
Ruby Steel, what? No.
That would be awesome, right?
It would be different for sure. So I do think that play draw is pretty strong. You know, right now ramping on 2 and getting ahead of your opponent and kind of like making sure they're keeping up with you is a pretty big deal. Establishing a board quicker, you know, if you're the first to establish the high rim, something like they have to be the first to answer. So there's a lot of that going on. So I do think that is a very big factor. I think the other biggest factor is kind of just like saying how much value can Sapphire Steel get? Because I do believe that on average, the Ruby Sapphire can answer, you know, pretty much all of your threats pretty evenly, pretty fairly throughout the game.
Yeah.
But, you know, if Sapphire Steel can really, you know, just get an impressive amount of free things between the Scrooges, between the Bells, and then the free songs and things like that, I do think that they can, like, overtake the game. And then for me, the biggest impact is Pete. You know, how effective can Pete be in the matchup?
Yeah. I do agree with that. Pete is just so annoying, and the thing is, there's a lot of ways for Sapphire Steel. I was about to call it Ruby Steel again. There's just a lot of ways for Sapphire Steel to keep looking for these cards that they need for matchups in general. In my opinion, Sapphire Steel because of Fortisphere. Fortisphere, yeah. Fortisphere. I'm confusing Vitalosphere now and Fortisphere. Because of Fortisphere, they have more ways of just drawing in general, but at the same time as well, Ruby Sapphire has a lot of ways of digging in general. So in a world for me where both players have healthy draws, I will definitely favor Ruby Sapphire just because of the amount of hard removals and heavy control stuff that they have compared to Sapphire Steel. But I definitely think that Sapphire Steel is in favor in terms of just draw in general. So it will all comes down to who has the better hand and the better line. But at the same time, these two players, it doesn't matter. They can minimize that luck because they're just really that good, and they can find ways, some ways out most of the time.
What we can probably both agree on for certain is that these players have played this matchup a lot.
yeah.
So
that I agree.
That is definitely not an issue. There's definitely nothing unknown going here. although we have some different versions and variations of like the numbers on the deck list, in general the cores of these deck lists are very, very similar on average, so it's not shocking to me that we're going to see this kind of come through.
Yeah. What do you think would be the perfect opening for you with Ruby? I'm about to say Ruby Steel again. It's Sapphire Steel, Earl. With Sapphire Steel. How would you like to play Sapphire Steel here? What would you want to see in your opening hand?
We definitely want one at least Popsicle or Fortisphere. There's a big debate on like what is more important to establish, and that is it the Bell early? Is it the Hiram early? Like, I think in this matchup, we have to pretty much understand that we're not going to win it quickly.
Yeah.
So in general, I'm not a huge fan of Bell early. I like just establishing the board later. When you can kind of get in the late game and you have like all of your items set up, if you want to like banish one, play a Bell, put another threat into play, and then Pete, you can really set up like big differences in like the way you're going to gain lore at the end of the game.
Yeah.
So for me, I kind of like to just the slower start of just Ink. If we have a Smee line, then maybe you want to be more aggressive. You want to get a Bell into play, get a Smee into play, and start questing early, and really force them to have like a coil early and answer your threats. And the other big thing for Theo here is he does not have a clean answer, actually any answer whatsoever, to a Sapphire Coil, right? There's no item removal in this deck at all. So Sapphire Coil could end up being a problem in certain situations here for Theo for sure.
Especially if you get multiple of them set up. And I like what you said there with if you can find the Bell and the Smee early, it might be a good line to take to get some advantage right away. Force the control deck to react to what you're doing, because if you let them be proactive, they will just set up these Sapphire Coils, and the next thing you know, they have 2 or 3 and they ink one, and now everything on your board is either 1 shrink or negative 10 million shrink. And it's so vulnerable to all these Sisus, to all these Brawls, to all these Medusas. And I really think that he needs to put the pressure early, but then again, there are some lines where it's like what you said, maybe you need to value the Popsicle on the board more and not pop it right away with Bell because you have the Flaversham. Because what if you don't draw another item? I mean, there's a lot of items, but there is a chance that you don't draw another item for that Iram, and it definitely feels bad whenever you have to set up a Maurice's Workshop or a Fishbone Quill just so you can draw with Hiram.
Right. And then the same thing here, right? We don't have an answer for any items out of Federico either, So there's not a Hideaway, there's not a Cusco. So like items are gonna stick in this matchup for sure.
The only removal for item is your own Hiram. That's the only thing that literally removes these items.
Yeah, so it is note that Workshop can be very well positioned in this game. It can definitely help Theo like really kind of just maintain card advantage in a big way. So that's very interesting. The idea that both the players are going in and say, you know what, my opponent has a strategy and I don't actually interact with that particular strategy very well. Well, kind of, it might be a difference of how much card advantage can we gain through Sapphire Coil and how much card advantage can we gain through Workshop. Like that might definitely be something that plays a key story in this particular matchup.
I agree. I'm gonna go check on Phil really quick just to make sure that we are ready. Are we ready, Phil?
Okay.
Hello, Phil. Can you hear me?
Did you unmute to them? He might have muted you. So you might have to type.
Let me do that really quick just to make sure.
Technical difficulties. Everyone, very sorry. We're working through it.
Awesome. They are ready, they said. So I'm gonna go ahead.
So go ahead and start playing. Good luck.
All right. I muted Phil again, and I have the big now. Okay. This is gonna be tricky because I have to give me 1 second.
We have to build the overlay.
So I'm just
the number one thing you can do if you right click and just take off the show non-video participants.
Yeah, that's exactly what I just said.
Definitely get rid of that. Definitely get rid of that.
All right, we're going to the match screen right now, and there you go. Everything is up. Everything is clean. Let me just reposition their thing really quick and put this a little higher. Okay. So there's not gonna be any counters or anything here. We have to look at their scores, and I'll do my best to yeah. They're using the app, so this is gonna be really tough to look at.
I'm gonna do my best to keep a score here.
That would be amazing. Please and thank you.
I'm sitting at my wife's work desk, and I'm like, hey, here's a here's a little post-it note. We're just gonna do it.
That would be amazing. Yeah.
I'm gonna do my best. I'm gonna do my best.
we're doing this old school way now.
I know. Oh man. Shout out to the COVID years where I played so many games through webcam. But yeah, here we are. It's okay. Oh, I love these sleeves. Do you know what this character is on Federico's sleeves? They're cool.
Gengar.
Is it Gengar?
It's Gengar. I'm pretty sure it's Gengar with a big tongue.
I think yeah. Okay, I see. Okay. I'm like, what is this? Like, it looks cool, but I couldn't figure it out.
All right, let me just.
We did miss the die roll. I'm not exactly sure who is first or second yet, but nonetheless, it's going to be exciting. You know, this is going to be a really good matchup. Really, again, I cannot restate this. Incredibly talented players here. 2 former DLC winners going head to head, and this is I believe is one of these players being eliminated, is this a 1-1 bracket or a 2-0 bracket? I can't remember.
I think that's how it works, right? On round 3, 4 of them I think is going to be eliminated.
Yeah, I was just looking to see. Yeah.
I love that they're not just like half cutting, because that's one of my biggest thing in a PvP when I do. You have to do the ritual of the 2-3-1. It's how I trigger.
Federico starts. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Now we know Federico won our die roll and starts with the wonderful popsicle.
If you can just keep everyone accompanied, I'm gonna add their name really quick on the stream.
Got it.
Because again, we're old school right now.
Yeah, no problem. The classical 1-2 punch. We did Inca Scrooge there, pick up another popsicle. So yeah, lots of popsicles in this matchup for sure. Sapphire on Sapphire action. And it looks like we get a pass over. So no turn 1 bell. Not part of the plan in this particular game this time. Federico gets a nice little untap. Definitely hoping for ramp. You know, that's kind of the strategy here. I think this is a big deal that Federico, if he has this. Well, so we're going to Inca Tipo, so we probably have a sale. How do you feel there, Earl, you know, just in general about in this matchup, you know, do we want to establish a Tipo just to have a character in play, or is it just like not important? We much rather draw cards. What do you
think? For me, if I was Sapphire Steel, I definitely prefer the Tipo way, but I can see why Ruby Sapphire don't want that, and mostly with the item, just so they can filter more to find better answers in the future. It would have been nice if he had another popsicle, of course, but even if he doesn't have it, it's just a way of filtering your deck better, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And looking for the cards in the future.
We legitimately see the exact opposite on the other side. We do establish the Tipo threat. So I do agree that like the earlier game for Sapphire Steel here for Theo is definitely getting some lore out of our characters from early. It also puts our opponent in position, like say, hey, you know, do you want to play Sisu on this turn? You know, can you put your how far I'll go, or can you know, get your high room established, or are you gonna let me get in some early lore? I like that little bit of a game within the game.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think it's very important to learn in this matchup how how strong are you in the late game? And I know there's a lot of variants and which can identify if you were stronger or not. But if we're going by paper, definitely Ruby Sapphire would be the stronger at the late game, right? Because of the Ruby end of things in general. But that can definitely change depending on how Sapphire Steel sets up the game for late game.
Yeah. So this is kind of like one of those turns now that we're talking about, where the Hiram gets established for Ruby Sapphire, and if this is our own Hiram, now we're pretty much saying like, hey, we do not have a good answer to this, to your Hiram at all. Which means that this Hiram is probably going to draw anywhere between 4 to 6 or even 8 cards, most likely for Federico.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big deal because we ink the bell to draw cards.
Yeah.
So we don't have that last cannon line. Like we just, those things don't exist. We're gonna have to find some additional help now.
Yeah, and compared to Ruby Sapphire, they have so many cards that can just answer this Hiram. When in terms of like answering Hiram, Ruby Sapphire is heavily favored in that, and that's like what I was mentioning earlier. The Ruby side of this Sapphire is just much heavier in terms of controlling the board.
Very difficult turn there. We had to pay 2 to put Sapphire Coil in the play to just immediately quest. Didn't even just that's it. Like we just that is the hard way to draw 2 cards for this deck for sure.
Yeah, that's definitely painful to watch. But I personally think that Federico can afford to do things like that at the moment because there's not a lot of pressure coming from the Sapphire Steel player here, Theotime.
There it is.
And
there it is. We just saw it, Ruby, right away. Brawl your Hiram.
Yeah.
You can't draw 4 cards. Nah, it's not happening under my watch.
Yep.
And that could very well be the story, right? We talked about it a little bit. Like the Battle of the Hirams are huge, and right now, unless we're gonna pay 4 to Zeus and then run our Tipo in, this Hiram is gonna be living for a while.
Yeah. He's gonna draw so much cards off of this, and that's probably why he didn't mind sacrificing that coil at the moment. There's no threat on the board, so he can just keep going. Right. He probably has another answer to that Hiram, if I'm being honest with you. He has 6 cards in his hands.
But Theo did here, yeah. Theo did reestablish the second Hiram here, so it's basically saying like, go ahead, find another. But we both know that this is not much of a difficult task for Ruby Sapphire whatsoever.
Yeah.
But it is, it's very notable here that early on it's the battle of who can get card advantage in their hands, and it's pretty even, ironically. But it definitely costs Theo a little bit more.
Yeah. 100%. And the thing about this Hiram as well is that he can just keep playing an item every turn and then questing for 1, which is a big advantage in this matchup. Like these little lore that you can gain here and there it can stack up, and that's what puts you in the range of your finishers when it comes to the late game. And Theotime is not gaining any lore with these Hirams, and Federico is gaining 1 lore at a time with these Hirams, and he needs to set up something on the board to efficiently answer Federico's Hiram.
Yeah, and the other thing too is this a Medusa maybe?
It looks like
it.
Yeah.
So Medusa comes in, answer again. Hiram just gonna go on a quest. Oh no, are we gonna sing How Far I'll Go? I thought maybe that's what we were looking at for a second there, but looks like we're just going to quest up. So I believe the score is now 2-2, 2 from Tipo, 2 from Hiram.
Yeah.
Doing my best to keep track here for everyone.
I can also make it bigger,
but yeah, like
for
we said,
people. Yeah.
But yeah, like we said, it's going to be a battle of Hirams, and right now the card advantage is even from the Hirams, but we're just going to consistently have some answers. Looks like Phil might be updating me here. It is 2-2. Haha, thank you, Phil. You're the best.
The thing now as well that feels bad here. It's not always the worst play, but it always feels bad when you have to play the Scrooge McDuck and basically pay for it. I always feel like that's such a slow play in general, especially in this matchup. In my opinion, you need to put a lot of pressure here pretty soon as a Sapphire Steel player, because you're giving so much room for the Ruby Sapphire to pretty soon play proactively and set up its own items and its win condition.
Well, it is also notable. We did discuss, big difference between these two lists is that Federico does not have a dime, and Theo does.
Yeah.
And we would know that Federico does not have an answer to the dime. So there's also a world where we can establish, if we can actually resolve our own Happy as a Clam Tamatoa, then we can really punish the idea that Federico does not have an answer to our dime.
Yeah.
So that could be a real big turning moment or story for this event, for this particular matchup as well.
Yeah.
We get to quest a 3 there, draw some more cards.
This is so much card draw.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what this matchup's about. Yeah, and the other big factor there was that last turn can no longer just quest with Tipo for free. Medusa will very much take that trade. So now we're just leaving Tipo until we, maybe potentially need a Strength of a Raging Fire number later. We shall see.
He's getting his pokes though on the lore, which is very nice. This Scrooge McDuck definitely needs to sing Zeus on this Tamatoa, because I'm pretty sure there's gonna be some pretty nice item in that amount of cards that Federico have in his hand, and he can just keep snowballing here. One of the things that Sapphire Steel struggles a lot, it's amazing taking characters one by one. Maybe 2 by 2 at the most, but it cannot wipe the board. Right.
That's the biggest difference for sure in this matchup is Sisu and Be Prepared versus the lack of being able to wipe board. But this is a way to do it. Establishing free characters is huge in this matchup. Getting another character in play. Even here now, now we can probably put a bell into play. We can just get rid of one of these items, put a free bell in, keep going. We have another 4 here. I wonder what we're doing. So we actually have another Scrooge McDuck. So the army of ducks are definitely here.
It looks like,
and it does make.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's it does make this board this is kind of what's now. It's saying okay, you're gonna get your board. I'm gonna get my board, and I'm gonna do some of this for free. Being able to sing a Strength here would be fine. Being able to sing a Zeus also fine, and now you have the board presence. But this was the funny thing here is we talked about the Last Cannon versus Shield of Arendelle. Ironically, a Shield of Arendelle here would be quite nice, because now you could give your Scrooge resist, and the Medusa couldn't just straight up trade for it 1-for-1.
That's very true. It looks like he's gonna sing. He's just gonna sing to take out the Medusa here, though.
Yeah, definitely not the card he was looking for. I assume. I do like the quest from Tipo here. I believe that this is what I would call a free quest.
Yeah.
On average, this Tamatoa is not going to challenge our.
No way.
Our Tipo, right? So he's pretty safe. He's pretty free.
Yeah.
And may as well get the damage. May as well get the lore while we possibly can. And the big thing here is, again, we have 4 shiny Tamatoas. We are looking to potentially win the game big with some big amounts of lore games. So every little piece of lore we can get makes that Tamatoa 1 item closer to just freely winning the game out of absolutely nowhere.
Exactly. And it's an open deck list as well. Both players know what the other one is playing, and we can see from his play last turn, he doesn't mind losing these ducks at all, because the truth is the probability of finding one Be Prepared is really low. Even with the amount of cards that Federico has, the chances of Be Prepared being in the hand right now is quite low. So it's not really a big threat for him. The big threat here is this Sapphire Coil getting set up, and then the big Sisu or even just the other Sisus coming in.
And I like that. So we have to get to sing how far I'll go there. So to update everyone at home, 6-3 in favor of Federico for lore gain now. And, we got a free Sapphire Coil, which definitely can help us out here. We're also going to get 2 ink this turn. So there's a world where we can ink twice shrink 2 of the current, Scrooges, and then just play a Sisu and just leave Theo with nothing but one lonely Scrooge.
Yeah. Let's see though. He still has so much ink.
I love the little marker here for the -2. It's a huge, phenomenal shout out.
I just realized that I was so focused on what Federico is about to do next. I completely missed that. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. He had this. Oh, and now we have a pen as well.
He's setting up a pen, pineapple, apple pen here.
Yeah, and there it is. So we did get the double ink this turn into the Sisu, leaving just one lonely Scrooge McDuck.
Yeah, and that's through one Sapphire Coil as well. And the thing is, his hand is so healthy that he doesn't mind inking twice. Well, there he only inked once because he had to sing How Far I'll Go. But there's just so much more fuel into this coil at the moment.
Yeah, looks like we are just establishing the items here. And this is a world here where, again, there is 0 answers to these. So if we're on a clock, this is a great clock. And the other big note here that I think is we might have missed it before. No Maleficent. Who?
He just scooped. Theotime just scooped.
Theo just interesting. Huh.
That's very early. His hand must have been really, really, really bad. This is the moment that we wish that the Pixelborn part is working so we can actually see his hand. But yeah. It looks
because it's interesting there. Because obviously, when he passes back to Federico had 6 lore in play, so he could have went from 6 to 12, which is nice. But Theo had a very nice lineup of items going. So if we could just find, our dime and find our Tamatoa, we might have been able to threaten a very quick game. And the thing we missed earlier that I wanted to point out was Federico does not have any Maleficent dragons.
Yeah.
So he doesn't have the greatest answer. He has a 1 Let It Go in his list. But aside from that, he doesn't have a great answer to, Shiny Tamatoa either. But yeah, I guess Theo just said, hey, the clock isn't here for me. I'm not going to find the cards I need in time, and we're just, we're going to take it to a game 2.
Yeah, he wouldn't have scooped if there was a chance. He probably counted it in his head. Okay, even if I draw this or that in 2-3 turns, I'm going to lose. I might as well save my brain cells for the next match.
Yeah, very, very fair. And we're only playing 1 match here, but that's just like, hey, you need some ideas for your own tournaments. Conceding early and saving that brain power, it goes a long way through a 7-8 round tournament.
Yeah, especially against another fellow champion.
Yeah, very, very fair. So we get to go to game 2. Theo is on the play this game. And, I think that this is definitely a game where the way the last one went, maybe we need to attack that lore this game. Maybe we really need to establish that turn 1 Bell and that turn 2 Smee, get the lore out early, and then try and just win through a combo Tamatoa late.
Yeah. Force him to react to a bunch of threats, attack from multiple directions. Wait, he doesn't have a McDuck Manor. I have their deck list. It's only Federico that has McDuck Manor, right?
Oh yeah. Federico has the McDuck Manors. Yeah, no locations for Theo.
Yeah, the only way he can really attack is with Smees and Bells early, and then set up for the Tamatoa.
Yeah, just getting the chip damage early just makes the end game so much easier. Specifically in a world that we know Federico just doesn't have an answer to a dime.
Yeah.
So at any point we put dime in play, it just reads for the rest of the game, I'm going to gain instant lore. And that's a huge thing for this matchup.
Yeah.
A lot of the times, you're kind of like tiptoeing around the matchup. You're like, oh, I can't put this dime into play because it's weak to a Hideaway or it's weak to a Cusco. Theo has the information. He's like, no, I don't actually need to care about those things.
Yeah, I can just freely set up here, do whatever I want once late game happens. He just needs to make sure that his board is not being controlled by the Ruby Sapphire player here, and this is why he needs to keep on putting pressure. I feel like last game the game was so slow on the Sapphire Steel side. He probably couldn't find the right lines in general. So maybe we can ask him as well why he didn't choose to pop the bell right away with the item to add some more pressure on the board.
Yeah. We'll see if there's a SME here. Looks like it's just TPO, so we're gonna go plan ramp. And don't get me wrong, the SME later on is still a problem. It still kind of forces the opponent to have the Sapphire Coil still. So it is one of those where maybe right now it's just important. Hey, like let's just get a turn 3 Scrooge or a turn 3 Hiram to kind of keep that advantage going early. But it's also notable that for Federico, it's just way easier to establish, very quickly. Like, okay, I'll ramp this turn 2, but next turn I can take a turn off. I can get rid of your Hiram with the Sisu, and just kind of keep you off being the ability to gain as many card draw. In game 1, Federico just absolutely won the Hiram war. And that might have been the entire game in itself.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. Let's see though if Federico will have the same answers that he did earlier.
Right.
Or will Sapphire Steel can actually go vroom vroom here?
Yeah, it looks like we're gonna get some free quests with the TPO here. Get that little chip damage going and starting as well.
Let's see what he's gonna play next. Ooh.
So it is the duck. I do like the duck, right? The duck can go and find an item. It can't be easily Sisu'd. It can't be easily answered. Specifically without a Sapphire Coil out yet. Finding Last Cannon's fine here. This is great. We just even if all we did this turn was find our ink for next turn, I think it's a successful turn.
Yeah. It at first, like now that you mentioned that, I realized that it's probably better to play the duck on 4 than the Hiram in general, because then you can keep on just questing. You keep on poking and set up for your end game here.
The big deal too is what it does is that on average next turn, or maybe not next turn but the following turn, where we start like wanting to drop our 6s and things like that, dropping Hiram then means like, okay, you don't get to play your Tamatoa, or you don't get to play your Shark, and if you do, that means I'm going to be able to finally draw 4 cards off of Hiram.
Yeah. All right, just keep setting some more items here. Let's see if we can establish some more bodies as well on the board to keep questing. We're still 3 inks away from Be Prepared or any like Sisu plays.
Yeah, and here we go again. We just played 2 more items, and then we got to play a Scrooge for free. Keep the board, presence great. Find the popsicle, so that means both of our Scrooges are hitting. We can even just put this popsicle into play. Draw another card. Really start establishing this concept of like, hey, I'm just gonna have it all. Like this would be probably a great turn that if there is a bell sitting in the hand, this is probably the turn where it's like, all right, let's also establish a bell. Like let's really put the foot on the gas.
You inked the cannon for another popsicle. I'm not surprised at all. I am not surprised at all.
So the only reason I'm a little surprised here is because this cannon does represent a way for Scrooge to just run into Hiram next turn.
Yeah.
That like he is a hero. So by inking cannon, it's just a note like, hey, maybe we have to commit 2 attacks or 2 challenges into Hiram, and that's something that we don't necessarily want to do. That's the only reason why I'm a little hesitant to just going, oh, I can freely ink the cannon there. So we do go up a couple more lore here, go to 3.
But he also might be confident enough that these 2 ducks can be set up, because the way that we can answer the duck is through a coil, ink, and brawl. And if they do that, do you really feel that bad that you didn't answer the Hiram? Because the next turn you can probably just keep setting up as a Sapphire Steel player here, and possibly ramp some more and keep poking with this, because these Tippos, this Tipo and the Scrooge McDuck right now are slowly but surely poking so much, and with this amount of item, it's not going to be hard for that Tamatoa to just OTK the game the turn that it comes down.
Yeah, already representing 7 lore, So, but it also wouldn't shock me if next turn is just burn 2 popsicles, play a Happy as a Clam, and just keep the game moving forward. Because again, like at this point in the game, obviously establishing coil here is big, which could be just a factor of like, hey, now I might not be able to just freely put my Happy as a Clam into play. But if a Brawl is played here on one of these cards, that's great because it might be one less card and one less answer specifically that Federico is going to have to a Happy as a Clam.
Yeah, that's very true.
So we'll see here, what are we inking here? Like, what is our target? Are we going to get? Yeah, we are. So this is a big deal, right? Like, this means, like, that's one less Brawl that we have to worry about next turn. And, obviously, the Medusa is the bigger problem, but there's only 2 Medusas in, Federico's deck. It's not like it's some 3 or 4, card answer here.
It looks like he passed as well. He chose, even though there's not a threat to Hiram at the moment, he chooses not to quest and pop that Sapphire Coil, which is showing that he probably doesn't have another one in his hand, and he values this coil so much moving forward into this game to be able to keep controlling the Sapphire Steel board.
Pick up a Hiram.
Nice.
Get rid of, draw some more cards, gaining that, keeping that card advantage up, which is very nice. Obviously, there are plenty of things that Hiram can eat on Theo's side of the board.
And
here we go,
Scrooge.
another free Scrooge. Whew, big plays.
Nice. This way you can most likely find the dime pretty soon, or maybe you already have it at this point. It looks like he whiffed though.
Yeah, I mean, hey, it'll happen. Listen, if we can't hit on every Scrooge, it's not the end of the world when when like 2/3 of the ones that we played were for free.
For free, exactly.
I do think this is a good turn, right? This is a good turn to establish this bell. We're still 2 turns away from a Be Prepared. We're still 3 turns away from a Sisu. So getting this threat into play, getting to the lore that we need to really make Dime absolutely its best version. Really great.
This is 5 lore that's threatening the board, and the thing is as well. If you don't have how far I'll go, then you can't really fast forward the game here, and you won't be able to take out multiple threats.
Yeah,
because
big true.
Yeah, I mean, Sail can wait. He's at 5 ink, right? So if he ink plays Sail, he can ink another. Yeah, it won't be enough to take out the 2 characters.
No, we're still probably a turn or 2 away from that. We can still establish like how far I'll go with the Hiram this turn if we wanted to, and kind of maybe force our opponent to slow down on lore and take out our Hiram. But this turn, what is our best things to do here? Ink and play Medusa. Get rid of that. I actually think the best play, crazy enough, would be like Ink and then have 2 daring visitors Sisus.
Yeah,
that would be like, all right, I can get rid of your bell and I can get rid of your Hiram. Sweet.
Yeah, or even at least even 1 daring visitor and 1 brawl would be able to do it already. But of course you want those 2 Sisus because it's just gonna threat the board so much. It looks like it's a Medusa play.
The other big thing about particularly exactly the daring visitor is that it can set up a shift line for you.
Yeah.
So that could be a little nice. Because on this turn, if Theo just puts a couple more threats into play and then Pete's, well, guess what? Be Prepared's not saving you. So definitely notable here.
Let's see how much he's gonna extend here, knowing that your opponent only has one B prep. Do you even respect the 1 B prep here, or you just go like, you know what, I have a lot of resources, I can actually just keep going and not even care if you B prep my board?
I think it's a matter about a clock, depending on what our threat will be this turn that's going to get deployed is the real answer is if Be Prepared matters or not. I think right now, it's 3 characters in play that we played for free. So
Hiram. Okay.
I like the idea that we have a direct answer there for it,
Yep.
but this particular line feels pretty weak into a Be Prepared. Because we're going to give up a ton of lore, and he's not going to really lose anything now.
Yeah.
But hey,
and
we
you
get to go
gave
up to
your
8.
opponent another ink as well.
Yeah, right. So I don't know if that was our best answer, but this is also a really soft board, I guess, in the end. If this is the Be Prepared, we only have 1 card left in hand, though.
That's
that's
the biggest
very notable
thing. Yeah. Oh, so it looks like this might be a big Sisu.
Come.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just getting rid of Tipo, and so yeah, I mean, not the worst. Still being able to gain another 3 lore with our characters or sing and get rid of this Sisu fairly easy is nice. But it now looks like that, hey, like we need a Hiram, or is this our happy as a clan? We
Ooh.
already actually just have 2 popsicles. Awesome. Just have Popsicle and Fortisphere just hanging out. That was
Yeah.
probably one of the best cards we could have drew.
It's so crazy how he has two one cost item on the discard pile, even though he already has 4 set up on this board.
And there it is, like there it is. Like, see you later. We're just gonna keep going questing. I believe that takes us to 10.
Yeah. Playing Sisu the turn before also reveals that he there's a chance, or a big chance, that he doesn't have B prep, that he can just really keep getting away with keep playing some more characters on the board. But I'm not sure what lore he's in. It looks like he's at 11 or 12.
Theo's at 10.
A 10? Okay.
Yeah, I believe he quested to 10 that turn.
Nice.
At least by my notepad, I think. Yeah, because we sung with Zeus. We sung the Zeus with 1 and then quested to 10, I believe.
Yeah.
Looks like we're in some trouble here. The Hiram didn't get to last as long as we wanted to, so we're definitely low on cards for Federico. We already deployed 1 Sisu here, and maybe we're actually strapped for ink, right? Like maybe we can't even get Sapphire Coil online.
Oh, that is a very tough play.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those where
and only 1 popsicles as well.
So let's see. So we get to ink Vitalosphere.
I'm
curious if this is Brawl. It is.
Yeah.
All right. So we do get to take the threat away, which is it'll numb the bleeding for now.
All right. This is still so much lore. 3 lore a turn for this deck is you're getting away with so much things in general. And the Smee as well,
Smee, which is nice. That's a good follow.
Yeah, it's just a very cheap character that does the job that you want for this matchup. It's such a nice deck.
The 13, representing at minimum 5 on the next one to go to 18.
Mm-hmm.
So this is like one of those turns where it's like, man, can I even quest with my Tamatoa? Like, or do I have to challenge?
At least he can't dime and trigger the dime at the same turn yet for this meet to finish next turn. So you still have at least a couple of turns. But last turn though, playing the Tamatoa also kind of hinted us that there might not be an answer that he have on his hand. It feels
definitely not a good one, right?
Yeah, it feels like the red cards are missing at the moment, and the only cards that are there are blue.
Yeah, and the scary thing here is that, like, from this position, a Be Prepared is still very good. So if we were able to find it, even now, right? Like, if we just inked, played our Popsicle, or just play Popsicle to start, see if we can find it, it might be a very good position. Because you can kind of still, like, wipe the board here. 13 is not 20.
Yeah.
And you might be able to make something back from this.
And it also feels like this Tamatoa is just forced to attack one of these Scrooge McDuck.
Yeah, if you don't have the answer, you certainly have to start running into things.
Yeah.
And it does look like Federico he's really going through the paces. Like, what do I really need to do? What can I do to prevent my opponent from getting to 20? Because right now, like, if we don't challenge, or we're just letting Theo go to 18. And that is very much danger zone. Even with 3 Pirate's Life right now, there is a world like, hey, maybe we can sing a Pirate's Life and numb it a little bit. If we have a Maui, maybe like that's a big deal. Maybe we can establish a threat. But it looks like that's just not the case here. Yeah. I do wonder if we're gonna put 4 damage on here, banish both Popsicles, and maybe just play a second Happy as a Clam.
The thing is, I don't think that Theo actually would answer the Tamatoa here. He might just keep
probably
questing.
Not, right? Yeah, I mean, like, maybe there's a Let the Storm Rage on hanging out if there's no Popsicles here.
Yeah, just hard
But
cast
if we don't
it.
have a Hiram, if we don't have a Hiram, I think that it's still probably correct to just banish. So yeah, we do get rid of the Smee there, which I think is nice. Yeah, so this now at least forces something more than just Let the Storm Rage on.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was actually a really good turn. As like as fair as it felt in a funny way, it was definitely enough to say like, okay, like we're not done yet.
Yeah. This is
It looks like
also
we
what
get strength.
Yeah, this is also what we discussed with or a lot of players has discussed during the beginning. Like everyone is freaking out with Sapphire Coil. This is like a great example of like Sapphire Coil not being the best card towards the end game when you don't have a lot of resources, because eventually you will stop inking if you don't have the resources. And then in order to trigger the Sapphire Coil and make these type of plays with Sisu, you need to spend extra resource in general.
Yeah, and now right, we're down to one card here. This was a pretty great play because this is like he popped his Fortisphere to give bodyguard, which something doesn't happen all the time, but it did happen on this turn. And what that means is that Federico either A has to find an ink to make the Scrooge smaller, or he has to just straight up trade a Sisu for Scrooge.
And that's gonna feel so bad.
Just like the tax that you were just saying, like it is taxing when we don't have all the cards and we don't have 5-6 cards in our hand. It's not easy to just simple ink. That's a big thing here. Now, if we find a great card here to complement the card that we have left in our hand, maybe we can really blow this game out of portion. You know, if it is an ink in hand and we find a Sisu or something like that, like a Daring Visitor, then maybe this is a big turning point. But if we don't, then Fortisphere being bodyguard is a big deal right now.
Yeah. This is such a complete different game too from our game
Honestly,
one, right?
Both players, right? Yeah. This was not the Hiram game that we experienced in game one.
Yeah, this is like the battle of finding the most value out of your cards, because you don't have a way to keep reloading your weapon, basically your hand.
So I think the next play here will definitely tell the story. What did we find? And it looks like we just found Harfar. Okay, South Fargo is nice, right? We get to look at a card, find the best one for us, and we get to ink, so we get to shrink the Scrooge. So at the very least, our Sisu isn't getting banished by Scrooge McDuck.
Yeah. But if you also find another answer here in general, then you can. Never mind. He didn't find an answer, because you can just take care of this me and trade that Sisu as well, and just minimize how much lore he can get the following turn.
Yeah, I am curious. It looks like it was just shrinking the Scrooge. Yep. All right. So we didn't get the crazy fun little character on the board that time, so it wasn't sure. But yeah, we get to. We're just gonna untap, and we can go to 18 lore as Theo. So that's very, very powerful.
Yeah. I'm not sure.
We do. Is Dime good enough here? Can we actually just go to 20?
He doesn't
have
have
just
enough
established Dime.
Yeah.
Okay, so it was just established Dime. But yeah, questing to 18 is pretty big. This means that any 2 lore character off the top will just win the game. There's zero answer to Dime in Federico's deck.
Yeah.
So this Dime is pretty free for the rest of the game.
This is basically a time bomb at this point.
Right, and I think the question here is like, okay, maybe Theo does not have another character in his hand, so he's kind of weighing the pros and cons of, do I actually quest? Is there a world where I'm not supposed to? And I just say like, all right, my opponent can't find an answer to my board, I do win next turn.
Yeah.
Personally, I like gaining the lore now and just hoping my deck does what it's supposed to do and allows me to win the game, because if there's a Pirate's Life here, then like this plan kind of goes out the window anyway.
Yeah, for me, it just keep going at it. In my opinion, the opponent has 2 cards. The chances of them having an efficient answer to both of these cards is quite low at this point. So push yourself into that dime range, and he's at 18, right? So
yeah.
He just really needs to find a 2-cost character, or not a 2-cost character, a 2 lore character, and the game would be over.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest takeaway, is that even if he makes 2 trades here, it's okay. Every card off the top of our deck reads gain a lore instantly. So not only does he have to answer the board, but he also probably has to find a way to play a pirate's life. Otherwise he's just in such danger. I think the worst draw, ironically, would be the So Shiny Tamatoa, because we can't instantly gain lore from it. But pretty much every other character is representing a pretty good amount. Pete would be pretty great as well, like just as a free, like, hey, you can't, you're not gonna be able to play a pirate's life, and I'm gonna gain 2 lore instantly unless you have another CC or something like that. So there isn't that many 2 lore characters. Looking at the list, it is actually only Mr. Smee and Happy as a Clam, and then there's Hades as well. But Hades, you can't play Hades and Dime either because we didn't ink last turn. Yeah. So some worry here. But you also have a lot of time with this Dime, right? That's the big deal.
they're so yeah, it's like what you said. He has so much time. They're so far apart in terms of lore. There's not a lot of room here for Federico to keep catching up with lore here and there, because he has to keep reacting to Theotime's board, and it will only take even if you get Happy as a Clam, or even if you get Hiram Flaversham, you don't really feel bad if you don't have the GG there right away, because you're just gonna keep getting some more cards in general and keep finding ways to repopulate your board, and it's not looking good for Federico in terms of resources to keep answering the board in general. The further the game goes, we can see that he's using a lot of resources. The lower the chances are for him, or the probability to find more of those answers in general.
Oh, I thought we were going to have a very, very interesting play here. I thought what we were setting up for was a potential ink, and then shift Sisu on Sisu. That would have been a sweet play.
Yeah.
But not what happened here. But what this does is that actually keeps both of his characters alive and well here on challenges, because now that he just inked from how far it'll go, I believe there's 2 Sapphire Coils in that board. It might be hard to see, but I think he was able to shrink both characters and now quest in or challenge in and then keep his board, which is a big deal. Yeah. But as we can see now, what any 2 lore character wins the game from this position.
And he might already have it as well. And the thing there, like, he didn't even really need to heal the Sisu, right? Because Strength of the Raging Fire is the only threat that Theotime has. But he's playing it safe, which I respect.
No storms in this list. That's correct.
Yeah, there's no storms. But at that point, it might be a habit as well, that just expecting that most blue steel players have storm.
Interesting that he played the last cannon there. I think inking it would have been much better, right? Just because if we do draw a Happy as a Clam off the top, we can play it.
But he has a Maurice's workshop that he set up. I think.
Okay. I missed the workshop. Okay. I see it.
Yeah.
It was fast.
Yeah, I was in the bottom of it.
I was looking at his deck list, and I came back, and all I saw was the last cannon. Ooh, so we get to finally get some lore on the board here. We go to 4.
Mm-hmm.
And man, we are starving for a pirate's life.
He has so much ink.
What are we doing with this ink? We have a Happy as a Clam coming. Is that our potential here? All right, so that's a big deal. Big deals. Yeah. We go up to 6. We go to 16. Now we're not just straight. The game's not straight over to a 2 lore character now.
Yeah. Now there's room for a Hiram Flaversham play with the amount of ink that he has as well, to keep looking for answers in general, and keep finding those Pirate's Life as well.
Yeah. So let's see. We do have a Smee, so that would have been game without Pirate's Life. Very notable here.
Yeah.
It looks like we are just gonna dime away, go back up to 18. And, this is a check, in all honesty. This is hey, did you find an answer? Do you have another answer to my 3/3? Here's a bell. I ironically not get rid of an item there. Nope, we're just going to keep them in play.
Yeah.
But, this bell is technically also representing, Lorthal, as they say. Because even if you have an answer to Smee, quest plus dime is enough to win the game.
Yeah. Can you answer both? Is the question here with all the cards that you already spent? We're down one Sisu. We have a one Sisu on the board. Only one Sisu is left in the deck. I believe he inked a Brawl earlier and played a Brawl, but there's still the baby Sisus.
No, looks like that's it. Yeah,
Huh.
there you go. Dime, the
GGs.
dime earlier established the win.
Looks like we're getting a game 3.
Yeah, definitely, which is nice. You know, it's always nice to get 3 games out of these, to see these players display, you know, their wonderful skills. Gotta love it.
Yeah. Because of the
And it really was very interesting, right? 2 very different games that were kind of just played right there.
Yeah. It's very interesting. Like for me, that's more interesting than the Hiram game. I mean, the Hiram game definitely is interesting, but I love seeing it when your draw engine is not online. How will you play this deck? Because the thing is, most players in general that are not in this level will most likely misplay at one point during those those turns. But we saw how well both of these players piloted their decks and not just pull the trigger here and there to go all in. It's just nice how they manage their resources despite not having a lot of draws in the game.
Yeah, I think it's notable, right? Like these players experienced, you know, winners, DLC winners for, you know, if you don't know the names, if it's not that familiar, if both of these players picked up different DLC wins. A lot of the times when you sit down from across a player and you are Federico and you are Theo, you know, you are the better player. You know it, right? Like you're just like, yeah, no, like no one has the resume that I have. Well, guess what? We're playing against an opponent that does.
Yeah.
So,
it's so rare that this happens.
Yeah, exactly. That's the beauty of the LCCC, right? That is the beauty, is that these games that are on display are by some of the best players in Disney Lorcana.
Yeah.
And that's honestly the pleasure of being able to commentate these and watch these games, is because like Pavel put this together and we're just, you know, we're fortunate to have it. And it, you know, again, shout out to Pavel, shout out to Phil judging today. He's doing a wonderful job. He's actually, every lore change he's DMing me. I'm still writing it down so I have it myself, but if I miss something, Phil has us covered. So shout out to Phil, doing, you know, just doing everything that we possibly could ask from him.
Now that we've spoke about like both of these players are DLC champions, I think there's only one game in actual DLC where 2 champions actually faced against each other, and I think that was the EU Continentals with Zan versus Ed. I think that's the only time that it happened.
NA Continentals, you had me confused.
NA Continentals.
Yeah. Yes, that was the, you know, top, and not to mention we're talking about top 4. You know, it wasn't just 4. in the round. Like no, like this is like, hey, we're playing to finish in the finals. So yeah, it's nice. You know, it's very hard to come by. It's very rare too. Because listen, you know, you win a DLC. That's sometimes, you know, we make the argument like, hey, you got to be, you know, better to be lucky than good on certain days. But when you talk about Zan and Ed both winning DLCs,
it's just
and
consistency
both in the top. Right, and then they're both in the top 4 of NACC. Like, that is just like, hey, listen, you know, it's not about being lucky all the time. Like, clearly there is some very big skill here. Yeah. And that's why it's so fortunate to have these games and see this type of level of play on display in the LCCC.
At that point, I honestly felt like, no disrespect to the other side of the bracket, it felt to me that whoever won that game will win the finals. But obviously, there's still always a chance that the other player they deserve that as well, that they can like win. But yeah, all right. It looks like we ink a Pete here and a Popsicle, and from the other side, it was just a Maui Shark that was ink, and nothing played on turn 1 for Federico.
Yeah, missing Pop sucks. It's definitely something we want to find early, but hey, you know, life goes on. It'll be worse if you don't have well, yeah, it'd be a little worse, but also if like we do not have a ramp here, then, you know, maybe we're a little, we worry a little bit.
Looks like we do have it.
And we do. We have the sale. Yeah. It's not the danger zone yet, guys. Don't worry. But there was a lot of thought there. I want to note that. There was a lot of thought about what was going to get inked on that turn. And there we might, maybe we have one of those hands that we're a little starved. Inking the second ramp here. I do think that this list, for me, in all honesty, that has on the play that has that much ramp, maybe there's a lot of turns where we just want to go ink ramp ramp. Because establishing an early shark in this matchup is pretty huge. So like that is like a line that if we had to ink sail there, maybe we can slow down and just play how far I'll go here and then really threaten the game next turn.
I'm actually super interested in how this will pan out towards the end, because there's been a lot of talk before, ever since the beginning of Lorcana, that the player on the play obviously have an advantage, right? And there's a lot of like different solutions that people are presenting. Maybe you get an extra token or this and that, but what if that is like the solution right there? You get to ink, but you don't get to play on turn one.
I think it's really difficult. I can say that I don't think it can exist in a world where Tipo and Sail already exist, because it just means Sapphire would be even that much better.
True.
Like, because now you can just be like, oh, I can just play a Mickey Mouse Detective in my deck. I can just play Fishbone Quill in my deck. So like with Sapphire, the way that it's built, I don't think it's the answer. In all honesty, because like it would just make Sapphire literally that much more consistent, and it could let them play that many better cards. So I don't think it's the correct answer for the current metagame.
Yeah, it just makes me wonder sometimes. When
sure. In a different game where like we don't live and die on Sapphire already being the most consistent deck in the game, but I think that's why it is, right? Like we're talking about like, oh, if every deck had access to this, well, that's the problem right now, is the consistency of Sapphire. We have Bell that we can play from behind. We have Tipo and Sail that we can play from behind. That's kind of why we're seeing the dominance of Sapphire in general.
Yeah. Being good on the draw as well. All right.
Yeah.
It looks like you picked up a Maurice's Workshop there from Scrooge McDuck that we can probably we'll see pretty soon, because he wants to set up a lot of items here for the end game, because it doesn't look like he's having the same exact game that he had last match, because he didn't get to put a lot of pressure here in the board with just a Tipo and Scrooge McDuck.
Yeah, here's a big thing. The big difference between game one when we were on the draw is that there was a turn 3 high rim.
Yeah.
In this game, there is not a high rim. And establishing Workshop, again, Federico does not have answers to it.
Yeah.
So if we can just set up a Workshop next turn, and I mean, what are we even worried about right now? 2 Grandma Talas is not threatening at all. It is not doing anything to our board.
Yep.
So for Theo right now, this is awesome. Like being on the draw in game 3, and if we can just set up Workshop, play a Popsicle, draw extra card off Popsicle, like just get the card advantage. I don't know how many cards left in Federico, but it might be 3, maybe 4. If we can establish a Workshop, it's going to be huge. But it looks like we're just gonna looks like we're gonna go with team. I want to play to the board, and hey, that's okay too. 4/4s are great.
and I don't think that's the worst either. Like setting up the board, because I know he whiffed there, but like finding another item in general would be nice when you were actually ready to start playing the Maurice's Workshop, so you can just like, you know what, things are going slow this turn. I'm just gonna item all out on this turn.
Inking Tamatoa there, notable. As we're getting into the later stage of the game, it's probably not the card we wanted to ink. That could be telling a little bit about the hand.
Yeah.
Also, didn't have a follow-up Popsicle. That's also notable. That could have been a big reason why the Workshop was not the play this turn.
Or maybe he's holding it for the Workshop. For
It's possible now, but it's also possible like, oh, hey, I had to play my Scrooge so I can go find a Popsicle, and then I didn't.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
But listen, best part about that, we're 4 cards closer.
yeah, yeah, 4 cards closer indeed. All right, let's see what Federico is gonna do here. His hand is still pretty healthy with all these Talas that's being played, even though he didn't have a turn one popsicle with the Hiram. But it feels to me like the way the situation is just by like him looking at the cards over and over again. He's in that situation again. It's like, how can I make the most out of the cards that I have right now? Because I did not find my draw engine at all.
Yeah. The upside of webcam games is that your opponent cannot see your face.
Yeah.
But when you see the hand gesture go back, and he's obviously he's we're going into the thinking man a lot here. That's my humble opinion. What's going on with that second hand, and we've seen it from both sides now. So there might be a bit of ink problems here. We don't have all the cards that we want. We didn't get a Hiram in play. We don't have a popsicle. Like, there's a lot going on right now that is making these turns much more difficult.
Yeah.
So that's definitely what's like, hey, how do we actually get to a position in this game where we're gonna feel favored? Even here, what is this play? Like, is ink here? All this is really gonna do is allow us our Grandma Tala to kind of run in, right?
Yeah, to get a free trade.
Yeah. And we're inking Maui, so that's like, obviously we're not playing Maui this turn, but what are we doing with the rest of our ink this turn? That's kind of where I'm at. I think this is very interesting.
Oh,
But,
there's the
here we go.
Hiram. Okay.
Yeah, and we saw this before. This is what we like to call an expensive Hiram.
Yeah. A very expensive one. But at least he gets a favorable trade with the Grammatala, which is also nice.
We find the popsicle. That's big. Because maybe we have a Happy as a Clam in our hand already. So this grandma might be able to take this out, and maybe we just pop the popsicle and heal it, and say like, actually, I probably wouldn't do that. There's another Scrooge in play. Healing with popsicle doesn't do anything.
Yeah, we're not protecting it from Tipo. We're protecting this from the big duck.
Yeah. Leave it in play. It's fine. I mean, I guess, hey, like, the Tipo trade is noticeable. If he gets to trade in Tipo for Tala, that might be okay.
Now, one of the things that I'm curious about here, which one will be? Oh, never mind. I was gonna say which one will be stronger, the draw engine of the workshop or Hiram, but it looks like it's gonna be another Hiram war here.
Yeah, and it's tough to say, but hey, like right now we probably just needed 2 cards. Again, I don't think he had a popsicle. I don't think Theo had that popsicle. So I think that Hiram found that popsicle. I think if he had it, the better play this turn on average is going to be just establishing Workshop. Because again, we know Federico has no answer. There's no answer to Workshop in Federico's deck.
Yeah.
So that's a big deal. Looks like... Oh yeah, so Tipo does get on the board here. That is our first lure of the matchup here, right? Tipo gets in, gets the free quest. I think it's pretty free at this point too. I actually think at this point it would be worse to not quest, because at any given time we're going to start seeing Sisus hit play and just have answers to that Tipo anyway. So you may as well finally cash in to get a lure.
I just had to message my wife really quick because we're going on a Mother's Day dinner. If you guys didn't know, it's Mother's Day in the UK right now. And since we had some technical difficulties earlier, that the show might be late, and I'm not in a great position right now because this is a 2 Sapphire matchup that I know will last for another 10 million years before it finishes. I need to find an excuse.
catching the wife aggro live, never fun, but hey, we just get the deserted dinner, all right? Get the deserted dinner.
I don't know if they serve desserts in a Korean barbecue place. But anyways, back to the game. I'll deal with that later. My heart is beating really fast, so at least I'm alive and pumped up for the game.
That's true. We get on the board. So we do get Hiram. Gets the wonderful 4 cards out of Hiram, which is not too shocking here. Now, what are we looking for here? Like, the board's not crazy in any direction. But I still think like a Sisu here is pretty good. Getting rid of the opposing Hiram, getting the pesky Tipo off the board. Maui, I mean, this is probably not the best card, honestly, in this turn.
Yeah. But it does threat the Hiram.
Okay. We were just slow rolling. All right, we were slow rolling the Sisu here. Yeah, that was
Oof.
great. Even if Tipo just chips that and takes the Maui here, that's fine. Like, no big deal.
Yeah, I think this can be the start of the turning point, though. Now that Federico is in favor of the tempo on the board, there's just so much that he can start doing at the moment to keep pressure on the board. We saw a Maurice's workshop play here with a popsicle. This can literally open up for a McDuck Manor play. And there's nothing that you can do with that McDuck Manor for another 2 or 3 turns at the very least.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I think it's worth that risk. I think that establishing Workshop here, this was the best turn to establish Workshop. Because in all honesty, now that there's a Sisu in play, we're threatening Shift Sisu at any given moment as well. So take the turn off, draw a bunch of cards. There's not an item for Hiram right now to go and quest with and get rid of. All right, but we just found it. No big deal. But this is also it. This is not a McDuck Manor, right? So I think that this is the type of board that this is probably a better case scenario for Theo here. Taking that turn off, putting some items into play, getting into the end game, and really, I think that Federico is still trying to find his kind of like way into the end game. So does pick up a quest, goes up to 2-1. I assume the Sisu will also be questing, so we can probably just assume we're gonna go to 3-1. To end the pan, pass the turn back, and yeah, it'll be interesting because now we have a board, and Theo has to fight a little bit for it.
Yeah,
so we do get to go to 3-1 there.
This is a lot of threats on the board. Tamatoba and Flabbersham is no joke, and a shiftable Sisu in general. The good thing though is there's no coil, but I spoke way too early. The coil,
typical caster fashion. There's no wait a minute. Yeah, and this is definitely like, hey, what is the threat? And I will say, to me, the Tamatoa is not as threatening because there is no dime. We're not going to just get free 7 ink. So the Hiram is probably the bigger deal, but obviously it's much harder to answer Hiram for Sapphire Steel than it is Tamatoa.
Yeah. Let's see what he's going to do here. He exerted 3. What can he possibly?
Because there's 2 more ink over there, right?
Oh, did he not use the two inks yet? Okay, so this is 6 and.
Okay, so
no, he did play 2 items.
He Force Spirit early. Okay, yeah. This to me is interesting. This to me is looking like, hey, I can see your clock, and maybe I'm just gonna go for the bigger clock.
Yeah.
Like maybe I'm just gonna be like, I'm just gonna keep establishing items here, threaten the game, and then just drop Tamatoa after Tamatoa. And it's also, again, it's notable here, we can freely put a dime into play, and there's no answer to it. So if we already have, let's just say we've already established 2 so shiny Tamatoas in our hand, and we have a dime, we can just ink, and then next turn play the dime and say, okay, the following turn I'm gonna gain 10 lore, and if you don't answer that,
yeah,
I'm just gonna win the game. But I might just have 2, and yeah. This is just, I think that's what we're leading to. I think this looks like a very much like a combo end finish, because I will note Theo's only on 1 lore currently. Did not get a lot of chips, so we're gonna have to get to 9-10 items in play for the Tamatoa to be able to win the game.
Yeah. Dan, I am so sorry. There is technical difficulties that happened earlier. I didn't expect it to be this long, and I cannot do this to my wife. It's Mother's Day. It's her very first Mother's Day. So is it okay if you take over the stream and I will shut it down later? I just want to apologize to everyone for what happened. There's things that we didn't expect, and I did my best to be here as long as I can. Again, I am so sorry, Dan. Thank you in advance for doing this.
All good. Let's keep it going. Let's keep the show rolling.
All right. Okay, I'll see you guys later.
Adios. Okay, so we did establish another quest there from Hiram. Pick up a couple more cards. We go to 4-1. Oh, Shark is a very good card to pick up here. Although it is noticeable, in this game, I think that Shark in a Pirate's Life is like the key way to kind of close out games against aggro and things like that. This is not one of those games, In all honesty, we're only on 1 lore for Theo, so the other half of Pirate's Life, not great. But it looks like we can pick up a couple more. I was really hoping for a shift Sisu this turn, even into a board with no characters, because you're able to kind of race then. But it looks like we couldn't find that. So as he's going through the paces, trying to figure out what the best stuff for him is, and kind of really, I would be worried. I would be worried about about a lucky dime next turn if I can't win fast enough. That's a nice little lore pickup there. I believe we go to 6-1 at that point because of the shark triggers. And then we're still going to have a couple quests here. Tamatoa can quest, Sisu can quest. Might be around 9 at the end of this turn. So that does, make the clock a little bit more interesting. It might be a little bit more difficult to just simply take a turn off to play dime if you're Theo, because we're not just I don't think, again, only one lore, so we can't just establish 18 items in play. That's very difficult. So we go to 8 and we get a free, I think that was a sapphire coil. Yeah, it's a free sapphire coil there. So 8-1 in lore counts. Sapphire coil established, and I can't really think of a reason that the Sisu won't also go on a quest. So we get to go to 9-1 here. Pass the turn back. A little more difficult for me to see exactly how many items. It looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 7 items on the side there. But to note here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lore in play. A shift Sisu would represent another 2. So that could take us to 16, and then 4 actions from a Maui Shark could definitely be representing Lorthal. It's 100% not out of question for that to be a possibility. So that's got to be in Theo's mind. Like, how do I actually navigate this? Was playing nothing but items the last couple turns the way to go if it turns out that my clock is not just going to be winning the game? So it looks like we are... like there's 6 ink there, so maybe we're trying to establish our own Happy as a Clam. Happy as a Clam would be a way to get around it if there's not an answer to the Happy as a Clam, but full hand of cards for Federico already has the coil established. That might be a bit risky, but hey, sometimes we just need to play to our out, right? Definitely going through the paces here. Doing his best to try and figure out what is our correct line. Looks like we do, right? We establish the Happy as a Clam, we get back to popsicles, and even with this, right? Like, let's just say we play a popsicle. We're gonna draw one, make the decision on a workshop. Looks like we are declining workshop. This could be, all right. So there's an ink. So yeah, so we decline workshop. That's notable. And then we're going to ink for turn. I see a Zeus hanging out. So here's the Zeus. The question is, what is the Zeus target? And he's definitely thinking about it. I think it's probably Shark, just because we don't want the actual conditional lines. Yep, and we also don't have an evasive answer straight up. And again, the Happy as a Clam, not nearly as threatening for Federico. Like, he doesn't have Lucky Dime. He's not going to get some huge incremental value. But I think the game might really rely on here is there an answer to Happy as a Clam for Theo? And if there isn't, then we could see a gigantic lore gain next turn, which is pretty great. But I I find it hard to believe that this guy's gonna that we're gonna untap with him, if I'm being completely honest. We'll see though. I mean, 6, 7 cards there, Federico's hand. Lots of counting here. So again, this might just be ink. Yeah, I mean, even ink shift Sisu here is just massive. So we get to shrink down the Happy as a Clam. We're gonna then go on a quest. We get to go to 10. So 10 lore for Federico, pick up another 2 cards. If we find the Sisu, we're just going to quest to 15 and remove Happy as a Clam. I think that would be like almost game ending. I'd be willing to say that it basically is game ending. Go to quest for 2 more. We'll go up to 12. Maybe we have a free popsicle. Yep, popsicle for the draw. Maybe you just don't have it. Maybe we didn't find it. Did we? Did we have it? Ooh, all right. So not yet. Still enough ink to do it later, but we're gonna pick up another 2 cards with Hiram. Looking for it. We're fiending for it. And let's see. Is that the 6? Did we get there? Did we live our best life? Yes, we did. Ooh, that's a big turn. So we get to just quest for 15 with a very dominating board. I would be pretty shocked if he was able to kind of get out of that particular line there. I think that right there just might have been curtains. We'll see though. We get to untap, lots of ink, lots of cards, but I think it's a lot to overcome. Even in a world where we have multiple Zeuses to get rid of multiple threats, double Hiram is still representing 17. It's a lot to come back from. I think we really needed to be able to quest with yeah, so there's 1 Zeus, get rid of 1 problem, that's 3 lore. And then yeah, Strength of a Raging Fire is not going to do it. No characters established. Although it would have been cool if we were able to drop like multiple Zeuses or multiple Scrooges here and maybe set up something to get rid of it, but I think we're going to fall short. And granted, technically this did grant us 1 more turn as we see it, because we can only quest up to 19 with this board position, but that means any shark and any action would be enough to win as well. Going through the paces, making sure the ink is all correct. Lots of cards, but hey, sometimes it's very, very hard for these. Oh, we did have the 2nd Zeus. Okay, so the clock definitely a little bit better now, which is nice. That is notable. But we just spent a whole turn answering our opponent's board and not really kind of presenting anything for ourselves. Even if this is just a SME here, I think that that's it would have been nice to pick up another 2 lore in play, but I think that there's a chance that we're playing to not lose in there rather than having to win. But hey, sometimes you get to that board and it's just really difficult to even be able to do it. But yeah, here's a shark, and this might actually be a way to flat win the game. Oh yeah, so Pirate's Life, right? 17, 18, and then 19, 20. Yep, there it is. Shark plus it, and I mean we had 2 visions. We had all the actions. We had everything imaginable. So I am gonna go back into the Discord real quick and unmute our players because I need to be able to hear them, guys.